Hey guys, meteorologist Chris Tomer here with this afternoon mountain weather update. All right, here's what I'm seeing this afternoon. Latest data, latest trends. So pattern right now is already shifting up to the north, 211 through 215 to favor the Pacific Northwest, BC, Idaho, Montana, and also Wyoming. In fact, we may see a pretty sizable snow bullseye set up over the Tetons. I'll show you that data in just a few. Then the whole thing's going to shift back down towards the central Rockies, California favored, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado, 216 through 221. But one thing I'm seeing this afternoon versus what happened this morning, that initial storm system that looked like it was really going to be impressive on 216, 217 is trending a little bit weaker and a little bit faster, unfortunately. But there are other waves behind it, hopefully to make up for some of the difference, along with a strong subtropical jet to just blow these little pieces of energy from the west coast, California, all the way into the interior. The northeast, interesting situation. You've got two storm systems, 213 and 216. The 213 storm is trending a little further to the south, so that'll shift some of the heavy snow a little further to the south, and then 216 is a little more general across most of the northeast. So we'll look at all that in this update here this afternoon. Let me take you over to water vapor satellite imagery here and just show you what the setup is. So I marked it, and there's a few things. You've got a trio of area of low pressure sitting over the North Pacific, and there's a little bit of a northern branch component sort of guiding the first two into the Pacific Northwest BC northern tier. That'll be the pattern through 215. The third low will likely get picked up on the southern branch, and you can see it's running all the way in through the central southern parts of the Pacific right there, and they'll probably carry that directly into California, and that third low become part of that pattern 216 through 220, and there's additional energy that will come in behind it. In fact, let me show you the jet stream pattern. So all right, here's the situation today by close of business at 11:30 p.m. And watch the jet really favors the northern tier for storm systems, 213, 214, there's 215. And on 216, things start to change. Here comes that powerful Pacific subtropical type jet right there, and that's going to be moving that moisture in. But you notice by 218, let me just back it up just a little bit here if I can. Now 217, this was going to be a key day with that initial low moving through Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. Now, there's kind of a split jet, and the low is not nearly as pronounced this afternoon. So that would lower totals a bit, especially early in that period. All right, let's move ahead. So there's 218. Here's 219. Big storm off the California coast by 220, and that would be one of those areas of low pressure that moves in, 221, 222, 223 through the Intermountain West. Put some moisture on all this, forecast radar, satellites. So again, everything in the initial first few days favors the northern tier of states, Pacific Northwest, BC. You can see where the blue is. And then there's this bullseye that starts to set up. 215 and beyond, right over the top of the Tetons, right along that frontal boundary and where that jet's going to be sitting. And to some degree, it kind of shifts down towards the Wasatch, but without that, without the initial low pressure and the strength of that low, it's not quite as pronounced for the Wasatch as it was this morning. All right, so here we are at 215 after. Here's 216. That whole thing, it just like races down through Utah and Colorado, and then that's it by 216. This morning when we looked at it, we had an area of low pressure that developed, and it took its time. There was a trough, there was jet support, but this afternoon it's much faster, and it moves out, and it's gone by the end of the day on 216. So then we got to look to the west and say, well, what's next? There's a couple days of dry air, and then that storm system finally moves in. 218, that one moves into the Wasatch, Tetons, Idaho, Montana, and Colorado. But that one's also pretty fast. And then here comes another storm system guided in by the subtropical jet. This one might be more pronounced, but this one's on 219, 220, 221, and 222. Okay, let's talk about the latest snow numbers here. So the rest of today through tomorrow, all the snow's up in the northern tier, BC. Probably 1 to 4, 1 to 5 inches. All right, second period, things start to shift down, 213 to 215. It probably snows all of those days in the Tetons, 2 feet or more. That's why I said that could be a snow bullseye. Parts of Idaho, 4 to 6, maybe 4 to 6, brushing Utah, central and northern mountains of Colorado, 2 to 7, and a couple of feet up there around Timberline. Mount Bachelor does well as well. Okay, let's go to 216 through 220. and another foot for the Tetons, about a foot for the Wasatch. Now that is down a little bit because of that initial storm being faster and weaker. Colorado, the numbers have also come down, probably cut by 30-40%, but looking at 4 to 8 inches across most of the area. 1 to 2 feet in California. Those numbers have come down a little bit as well because you're not going to get that big storm system initially that rolls from California into the interior. Okay, some decent numbers up in BC during that period, 4, 5, 6 inches, and the Pacific Northwest, probably 6 to 12. All right, final stop. So there are 2 storms here that make up these totals. It doesn't all come on 213. In fact, the 213 storm track is shifted a little further to the south. That's going to focus more of the snow across extreme southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and maybe missing Maine altogether. But more of it runs through southern New York and definitely Massachusetts and those pink shaded areas. That's a foot or more. The second storm that comes in on 216 is a little more general and just kind of brushes all of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine with moderate snow accumulation. So it's 2 storms right there. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this afternoon mountain weather update. I'll keep an eye on things here. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.